All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. With their 45-20 win on Saturday over the K State Wildcats in the Sugar Bowl, the Alabama Crimson Tide ended their season on a positive note while also being left to wonder what could have been. Alabama went 11-2 this year, and their only two losses came via the walk-off. The Tennessee Volunteers beat Alabama on a walk-off field goal, while 3 weeks after that, the Tide lost to the LSU Tigers on a two-point conversion in overtime. Alabama's two losses came by a combined 4 points on the road at two of the toughest places to play in the nation, as this was all that prevented the Tide from going to the college football playoff for the eighth time in the last 9 years. The standard of excellence is extremely high in Tuscaloosa, as this marks the 15th consecutive year that Bama will win at least 15 games. Nick Saban, to his credit, he had his team ready to play on Saturday in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, nobody sat out, and I'm not saying that in regards to being a slight to anybody, from any other program that decided to skip their bowl game. But, these guys that, at the end of the day, the guys that most people expected to sit out didn't. And I'm talking about guys like Bryce Young and Will Anderson, who are going to hear their names called extremely early this spring in the NFL draft. They went out there and not only did they play, they balled out in helping Alabama win this contest. The Tide were able to erase an early 10-point deficit. They were down 10-0 to K-State early on, as it looked like, the Tide they were going to be lethargic. They weren't going to be interested in this game, and they were going to get run off the field. But Alabama got it going, and before it was all said and done, they had a big halftime lead. And at that point, they were on cruise control. And you look at Bryce Young in this contest, he was 15 of 21 passing for 321 yards and five touchdowns in his final contest at Alabama, as Young, along with Anderson and running back Jameer Gibbs, declared their intentions today for the NFL draft, and rightfully so. You think about the lineage that they've been part of for this program under Nick Saban, that they just added to that. And now, just like so many others prior to them who have played for Saban at both LSU and Alabama, it's now on to the National Football League. But again, of course, you see how Alabama played and dominated K State. You just have to wonder what could have been had Alabama gotten into the playoff. And of course, that was one of those scenarios where, we saw TCU lose in the Big 12 championship game to the same K State team. We saw Ohio State lose their last game of the regular season to Michigan. And then, of course, USC lost to Utah in the Pac 12 championship game. So that really opened things up. And Alabama was that 15th. And, you just had to wonder what could have been. And of course, Alabama had two losses, while both while TCU and Ohio State each had one loss. But it was one of those scenarios where should have Alabama have had an opportunity? Maybe, but we saw TCU and Ohio State make more than a great showing for themselves in the semis. Of course, TCU beat Michigan. Now they're getting ready to play Georgia for the national championship next Monday, and then Ohio State very, very close to winning in a hostile environment in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta against Georgia on Saturday as well. So, nonetheless, Alabama was the fifth best team in the nation. But the thing was, it was going to be very difficult for them to crack that field of four and get into the playoff. But nonetheless, with Nick Saban, he loses a lot of talent to the NFL every year. But in Tuscaloosa, you simply don't rebuild, you reload. And once again, Alabama has one of the top recruiting classes coming in. They're going to be right in the mix to win the SEC once again. And also, with that said, they're going to be in the mix for the national championship as well. So you look ahead to next season for Alabama, the big one on September 9th. They will host the Texas Longhorns, who will come to Tuscaloosa. And of course, this is a prelim, if you will, or preview rather, because Texas will be soon joining the SEC. And with that said, I could foresee Alabama and Texas playing each other every single year. Hosting Ole Miss on September 23rd at Kyle Field in Texas A&M on October 7th. And I know that A&M did not have the type of season that they wanted, but that is always must-see TV when you think about Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. And then, of course, hosting Tennessee on October 21st. And I guarantee you the folks in Tuscaloosa have not forgotten about what happened in Knoxville earlier this season when Alabama lost. And then, of course, hosting LSU this year as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things work out for Alabama. But nonetheless, getting back to this campaign, they finished on the right note. They sent off another stellar senior class. They're sending off some good juniors to the NFL. And then I think the Crimson Tide will once again be ready to be in contention, not just for the SEC, but for the national championship in 2023. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off. Say take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.